Good morning, Propane Buzz Briefing. This is the 16th day of January. I'm going to talk a lot about weather here today, making a subsequent and follow-up blog post on the Propane Buzz, so you can actually go in and see the graphical representation of some of the things I'm going to be talking about here in a second. I'm actually going to email out that blog post, so you'll have both this video and the blog post right there. So I think that will help best articulate both audio from an audible standpoint and a visual standpoint of the important things I think you need to know today. Watched a video this morning I did from Michael Clark of BAMWX.com, and he really laid out a great animation of what's been going on in the weather models. You heard me talk about, and you've also read me write about the last few weeks, how both the American and more so the European models have been struggling in the 11 to 15 day time frame, overestimating the warmth. Michael Clark this morning went back and showed what the EPS, the European Ensemble, was showing back on January 1st for January 15th, so it's 15-day forecast. All of the United States was above normal, anomalous warmth above normal. And then he showed what it was like 3 days later. The warmth became a little more muted. 5 days later, which then was like the 7-day forecast, much more muted up until right now, where we have wind chills 40 degrees below zero in the upper Midwest, where on the 15-day forecast on January 1st, that was supposed to be 20 to 30 degrees warmer than normal. And I took some notes from what Clark wrote, so sorry to look away from you for a second, but I think these are worth pointing out. We have seen what the winter pattern is. There is weakness in the models. I agree with him, and he's done a great job of showing that. MDA is another very reputable weather service we follow. Michael Clark and his outfit, BAMWX.com, they've nailed each of these past two winters. Nailed them. MDA's hit the last three. And in both instances, I think they should be applauded, because last winter, they both hit one of the warmest winters of all time. They were calling warm well in advance of it. And this year, in the case of MDA, as I have linked in the blog post, I give a link to you of what I wrote back in August of 2017 from MDA, what their winter projection was. And in September, I provide a link to what I wrote in September from what BAM thought of this winter. And in both instances, they were cold. And it was a shock to me to see MDA go cold, given the blowtorch that they've been putting out the last 2 years. Both of these companies absolutely have done a fantastic job with this, and I think good work is always worth mentioning. But it also gives me, and it should give you, confidence in the things that they're saying and seeing now, especially in the case of BAM. Clark and Kirk Hintz, their meteorologists there, they do a great job of explaining the why behind the what. They show you what they think is going to happen, then they explain why, and they use a number of organic forecasting methods. They analyze what's going on up in the Bering Sea, which is off the western coast of Alaska, and how what you see there typically will transcend and show up in the United States, the CONUS, the continental United States, over a certain amount of lag time later. And it's been rather remarkable. So they've really nailed it. Another quote from Clark: blindly posting day 15 European leads is stupid. Boy, he's showing that it's really stupid. It is certainly stupid if you're going to make a business decision on that. The European weeklies came out last night showing a very cold February. Michael Clark and BAM's organic forecasting methodology is also seeing a very, very cold February. And I went back and looked at MDA's August write-up and their February projection, and that was the coldest month that they showed for the entire winter back then. One of the representations, the graphic representations I show you in the blog post, is of what Michael Clark shows the gas-weighted heating degree days being for the next 15 days. There is a warm-up coming, roughly around the 19th of January through about the 23rd, 24th of January. It's certainly not going to break any records per se for the warmth, and it's certainly not going to slow down this freight train of chaos and problems we've been experiencing on the logistical side, as well as trying to get gas. But then around the 25th, Michael Clark's saying that another winter storm is going to come through, which will also usher back in the cold, and then it stays cold, as you will see in that graphic, from the 25th right on through the end of January, right on the 30-year average. So that's rather considerable. And the MJO energy pulse phases cycles that we're going to be entering in for February are 7, 8, and 1. Those are cold cycles. And if you don't know a dang thing about them, let me just tell you this. Those are the same cycles that were present at the end of December, just a few weeks ago into the early part of January. And you remember how cold that was. I'm actually concerned by this. Our industry is in some places near a breaking point. And here's why. Some people might say right now, well, John, gosh, it was tougher in 13, 14 than it is now. Let me tell you what, it's not. Meteorological winter is December 1st through February 28th. That 90 days is what's termed meteorological winter. Well, I have a tweet embedded in the blog post that you should be seeing below, and if not, I'll put a link to it on the YouTube page so that we're all getting to the places that we need to get the most value out of these things. I put a tweet in there that showed from December 1st through January 15th, we've accumulated the most gas weighting heating degree days of any year since 2010 into 11. Colder than 13, 14 from a gas weighting heating degree perspective. Now, it may not be as cold now as what it was then where you live, and you are you wherever you are, but for the areas where the most people live, which is what gas weighting heating degree days represent, it's the coldest since 10, 11, and it's one of the two coldest in the last 30 years. And if the forecast that Clark and MDA have been showing for February verify, this could give a run for the money of the most gas weighting heating degree days accumulated for winter in the last 30 years. And right about now, it has me a little concerned for places like the Chicago market, the Ohio Valley, the Northeast. Heck, there's even some pain down the Dixie pipeline. You are all feeling it. So we've got to keep fighting, and we have to keep working. I was on Saturday, and I'll leave you with this. I was taking my daughter to breakfast and then to a roller rink to have a little daddy-daughter time because, you know, like all of us, we're all working a lot this time of year. And she was asking me, because I was on the phone for 2 calls in 15 minutes on the way there to get our pancakes. And she's like, Dad, well, what do you do with propane? And so I kind of dialed it down to her, and I said, well, I help people keep other people warm in their houses because, like Granny and Papa's house, they used to have a propane tank when they lived in the country, and that helps keep people warm. So she got her eyes got all big, and she got a big grin on her face, and she said, so wait, my dad helps save people's lives? And I got a big chuckle out of that. You guys do that. I mean, you retailers watching this, you're the ones that are really out there making a difference in people's lives on a day-to-day basis. And I don't really think that's overstating things. You get the phone calls sometimes, people in tears that they don't have heat. So there have been some phone conversations I've had with some of you this year that haven't, the last few weeks that have been stress-induced and not as pleasant as either of us would like. And we've come back and mended our fences afterwards. But I don't take it personally. I don't think you do either. We're all under a good deal of stress here. We're all rowing the boat in the same direction. And we're going to need to stay on the same team and keep rowing the same direction to make it through these next 6 weeks, because part of me is concerned that it's going to get tougher and not easier.